Okay, so what encouraged you to create the short film Black Eyed Susan?
I created Black Eyed Susan because I've been a very outspoken advocate for talking out about mental health since my eldest Matthew was born. So that's like 28 years now. And at the time, for many years, I felt like I was a lone voice of people off the telly talking about it. Thankfully, we are more open about mental health issues nowadays, even though we still have a long, long, long way to go. But I felt that over the years, I've seen mental health documented in a documentary style. I've seen, films and dramas about it. But I didn't feel that I had seen an episode of depression as it manifests in me accurately portrayed. So a couple of years ago, I decided that I wanted to make a short film and about my depression that I was happy to self-fund, because with short films, the chances are you don't make a short film to make money, really. And that wasn't the issue. It was about people getting to make it for people. I have a lot of people come to me and say that that they're poorly, or thank you for speaking out about it and giving us a voice and everything. So I thought this would be some way towards that in another art form. I asked a friend of mine, Nick Rowntree, no stranger to mental illness himself, but a creative. He wrote it. We decided on the idea of Louis, the character, of the boy, being the depression, as it were. Winston Churchill talked famously about the black dog. This was kind of our version of the black dog. And I wanted to tell the story in 15 minutes, but it was very important to me that it had an up ending, not a happy ending. It had a positive ending, because my point being that if you have the right help, whether it's talking therapy, whether it's CBT, whether it's family support, whether it's medication, you will come out of it. It will always be there lurking in the background, as the end of the film depicts, but most of the time you can live a happy, healthy life. And because I won't be defined by my mental illness, most of the time I'm fine, but it still is there, and I've learned to live with it and deal with those episodes. It became a family affair because I needed a teenage actor to play the boy, and I'm very blessed with a talented family. So I didn't have to look any further than Louis, who's my 16-year-old. Musically, I didn't have to look any further than my eldest son, Matthew, from the 1975, even though he had to make sure that this project was something that he wanted to put his name to, because they're too big just to put music to something because me mam's done a film. Yeah. So it had to go through the right channels. And my husband came on as an executive producer as well, with some of the funding. And I had a brilliant co-producer, Susie Mottram, and we made it. We begged, stole and borrowed some of the best crew that we could. And we made it over 4 days in Hertfordshire. And it then did the round of the festivals. And all new to me, I had no idea how hard it was to get into these festivals, so we did quite well. We didn't get into some, we really wanted to, and we got into others, and we had a bit of success with that. And then only recently we put it out online. And the pre-interview that I did on The Build, which is the Huffington Post live section, where I talked about some issues, like people who... There was a Piers Morgan issue that became quite public because he had said something that I disagreed with regarding Will Young's mental health issues. And I did an interview with Kate Thornton about all sorts of things before we put the film out. That piece of film has had 1.3 million views already. And the film has had something like 18,000 views, which is incredible for a short film. And some of the responses I've had have been heartbreaking, with people saying that it's helped them. It's meant that they have a parent, a spouse, a sibling, a friend who doesn't understand. They've been able to show them the film, and from that, they've been able to become more open about it.
Do you think your film has encouraged a lot more people to become more open with the illness and speak to family and friends and seek help if they need it?
I think it is certainly, with the response that I've had from people, has definitely done that. All I'm bothered about, Anna, is keeping the conversation going and making sure that people know that there should be no stigma and taboo attached to mental health and depression particularly, which is my condition. Because I had no more control over getting that as I would of getting cancer or heart disease or diabetes. And yet we think nothing of empathizing and sharing in people's journey dealing with those illnesses, but there is still a taboo about mental illness. I once said that, which may sound very selfish or cruel, but I don't mean it that way, but I would like everybody in the world to have depression for 15 seconds and then for it to go again, so that they would know the difference between feeling down and low and feeling clinically depressed, which is the most isolating, frightening condition. And so Black Eyed Susan is just one step further for me to get people talking.
Do you think postnatal depression is a worry for pregnant women anyway? Do you think that's something they worry about during their pregnancy or afterwards?
When I talk about the origins of my illness being postnatal, I am always aware that whatever I'm doing, whatever forum I'm speaking on, there may be women who've just had a baby, women who are thinking of having a baby, or pregnant women, and the last thing I want to do is worry them. What I want to do is inform them. Because when I had a baby first, 30 years ago nearly, there was no information for people with postnatal depression. There would be pages and pages. And, you know, when you're pregnant, you think you're the only person who's ever been pregnant. You pour through every pregnancy book. There are pages and pages and pages and pages for any other conditions that could happen to you during pregnancy or to your baby during pregnancy. Mental illness, if this continues for more than a few days, go to your doctor. End of. And I was so lucky that I had the family that I had, because I was very, 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 very poorly with it. Most women will make a complete recovery from postnatal depression with the right treatment. It's a very serious illness and will affect 1 on 10 women, 1 in 20 maybe to the degree that I had it. But all I want to do is inform people that there is help out there. And if your doctor doesn't understand, like my doctor in London at the time, who said, well, I had 5 children, dear, and I just didn't have time to get depressed. If my late mother had ever got her hands on her, she said, God knows what she would have, done to her. It was a terrible thing to say, and showed a complete lack of understanding or empathy from a GP to say that. And so, of course, I don't want to worry people. I just want them to know, do not suffer in silence. If you feel this way, there is help out there. And if your GP is not the one helping you, find another GP.
And you've mentioned Louis, your son, filmed with you. Do you think he found it quite challenging, or was he quite open about it as well, like you?
Louis is a very confident actor, so I think he saw it as an acting job first, but obviously, having understood the subject matter, it was great that a kid knew what the film was about. He was still a pain some of the times as well, because I would tell him to do something, and because he's my son, it would be like, yeah, I know that, Mum, actually, I know how to do that. If the director or the director of photography said something to him, it was all, oh, you know, yes, Mrs. Patterson, no, Mrs. Patterson. But it was, yeah, of course, that he has an understanding of the subject, and I'm very proud of I've done many things wrong as a parent, but one thing I have done is brought 2 children up to be incredibly understanding of anyone who was less fortunate than them. Matthew's a very outspoken, huge advocate for the LGBT community. Minority communities do have, quite a lot of incidences of mental health as well. But both my kids are very empathetic to the condition. And so Louis, as I say, is very proud of it.
And in a way, with him being in it, that's the younger generation that I'm also in, and not many people our age do speak about it. Is that something else you'd like to encourage younger people to talk about their mental health?
I think that it's a real struggle for young people nowadays. I think that with the advent of social media, much as there are wonderful things that social media does, there are also some detrimental effects of social media. the fact that people are every day trying to live up to these expectations that the social media profiles, the Instagram models and everything, everybody's supposed to be a certain way. And I think that young people have a really tricky time with it. I hope he's just coming in there. So I think that and of course we have lots of cyberbullying, and this is something that is very close to my heart. I think that it's horrendous that this can happen, and I've seen many instances of young people taking their own life as a result of being bullied online because they don't feel that they have anywhere to go. I personally think that mental health should be talked about in schools. I think that there should be people, and I've done it myself, who go in, who talk to young people, and what it is it's not about scaring people. It's not about saying, oh, I've had this horrendous time with mental health and you might get that. It's just about saying, you all have heard of all these different kinds of physical things, and we know that 1 in 4 people possibly will get cancer. Type 2 diabetes is on the increase if we don't watch our diets. Those things are talked about quite freely. But what happens, where do you go if you find that you are feeling mentally, that you're struggling mentally? And I think that when people see people off the telly talking about it, it encourages people in some way to speak out. So yes, talking to young people and encouraging young people to not suffer in silence is very important to me.
Well, I think you've done a fantastic job with the film, and I wish you all the luck in the future.
Thank you
very
so
much.
Thank you.